Mine just says the
Oh,
broadcast is live. So
okay. How did that happen already? So what I'm going to do is check here to see what's really going on. And if it's working, then it's working. Oh, it's live. Oh my gosh. We're live. Okay. This is Kishen. And of course, you are friends with me on Facebook. So we're just testing out what's going to happen with Stories with Kishen. I don't know. I'm looking to see if people are joining. This is all new. 2021 is going to be amazing. It starts off however you mentally want it to start off. So it's going to be amazing. I am glad to be here. Chad from the station, both Ignite Radio stations that we've been on, is here with me. Chad, thank you so much for joining me. And he can talk. He really can talk.
I can. Again, I'm just waiting for a question.
Well, this is conversational. You know how I do. You know what? Don't even. This is how it works. So last year when we were doing the Stories with Kishen, there's some things that happened in 2020 that just took Stories with Kishen to a whole nother level. And to keep that momentum going, thank you for jumping on. Feel free to share this with others so that they can jump on too. This was impromptu. I'm trying this StreamYard. So this is all new. So I'm just really excited to try something new in 2021. And so that's why I asked Chad to join me.
And
so
that's the only reason why.
Yeah, that's the only reason why. That's the only reason why. So again, this is Kishen, Stories with Kishen. But in 2021, I have a new mantra, and I'm going to encourage anybody who's listening right now, who's jumping on, to just subscribe to this mantra. As you think about everything that you've gone through, you think about the goals that you set, or maybe you didn't quite achieve, but you don't want to give up, or maybe you do want to give up. The one thing that I will encourage you in is that you are the CEO of you, which means that you are the chief. You, yes, Chad, you are the CEO of you. I am the CEO of me. Everybody is the chief executive officer of themselves. Not only that, not only am I the chief executive officer of myself, I am also Christ focused. I am confident. I'm an educator. But in addition to all of that, I am optimistic about what this year lends. So I am going to commission everybody who's watching this. Maybe you missed the live broadcast, but I'm going to just ask you to really subscribe to being the CEO of you, because my name is Kishen and I am the CEO of me. Not only that, I have Chad with me. Chad, thank you so much for joining me tonight.
You're welcome.
His name is Chad. It is not Tom Cruise. But nonetheless, I am here.
This is what happens when software allows me to pick a name.
Right.
I'll pick a name.
Well, next time we'll
Earlier
talk
when we were
about
testing this, I was John Boy Walton, but I
yes,
decided
you were, and I was not happy with that.
She wasn't happy with that.
So when we, in 2019, you encouraged me to launch this podcast.
Right.
And I was a little apprehensive, but I did it anyways. And I'm really excited. Oops. You encouraged me to launch this podcast.
Ooh, we're on Facebook Live.
We are. Hey,
if you pick up your phone
joining. Yes.
and you put it in front of the camera, eventually, if you hold it up there long enough, it will be a picture of you holding a picture of you, holding a picture of you, holding a picture of you for infinity.
Yeah, we're not going to do that. We're not going to do infinity. What we are going to do is the here and the now, because I have a word. I am here to encourage people in 2021. I'm here to, somebody's going to reach back out and say, oh my gosh, I heard this. You encouraged me. I know what's going to happen. You know why? Because everybody has a story to share. So in 2019, when Chad was encouraging me, Kishen, you ought to start this podcast. I'm like, I don't want to do no podcast. Yeah, Kishen, because you like to talk, which I do. And so we started recording podcasts in like March of 2019. Didn't release the first podcast until August of 2019. Since then, Stories with Kishen has surpassed more than 14 different countries.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, I checked the numbers the other day. So across different platforms, it has surpassed 14 different countries. And I'm excited about that. And not to mention the hundreds of cities that Stories with Kishen has been in. But Chad,
yes,
what was one of the things that you felt compelled you to encourage me? Because you have a way of seeing things in people. So what was it that you saw that you were like, Kishen, yeah, for real, you ought to do this?
Well, first of all, you are a communicator, and that is certainly something that is essential if you want to be on radio or in a podcast situation. But in addition to that, you tend to have the gift to ask the questions people are thinking in their minds. And in my opinion, that makes a great interviewer, because people are going to be drawn because they're going to be like, oh, that's what I was thinking. And then they're going to be intrigued to know the answer to the question. So if you put the right guest in front of a host that has that kind of talent, then you get a good show.
You know, it's funny. My kids are like, Mom, why do you have a story for everything? And I'm thinking, well, because everything literally is a story. Every situation in life is a story, whether it's positive or negative, it's a story. And so that's what all of this is about, is giving people a platform to share their story. I have had people reach out to me who have had some very traumatic situations happen to them. I've had people with some positive things that have happened, and it's all about sharing the story. And even you, Chad, have a story.
I do.
Yeah. Do you want to share a little bit about it?
Why don't you ask me what you want to know? Because, I mean, I could start from the day I was born and work my way up. That would be a long show.
We don't want that. But just talk about a little bit of what you experienced in life. Hi, Miss McCullum. Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate it. And everybody who's watching. Hey, Zoe, Madeline, and Doris. Looks like she just jumped on. Hey, Big Swag is on.
Big Swag.
Yeah. Hey, Big Swag, we need to hook up. And Michelle McLeod from high school, and Tamika, thank you so much for joining us and tuning in to this live impromptu broadcast. I'm testing out this new platform of streaming and doing podcasting. So thank you for tuning in. If you have feedback, I'm checking. This is kind of interesting. And I'm really, I don't want to say embarrassed, but kind of excited that my old teacher is listening. And she's really a sweetheart. And she does not look her age. Miss McCullum looks great. So Chad, share a little bit about your testimony, because when we first met you, I thought you didn't like, you were very focused. I'll put it like that. A focused individual, but you got to the point where you had some experiences in life that led you to behave a certain way that you have since turned away from.
Okay. Are you specific? Could you be more specific with what you're talking about? Because I think everybody has experiences that shape their life. I think you're going a certain direction, and I'm fine with telling that story.
Hey, Eddie. Thanks for jumping on. Yes, I am going in that direction.
Okay.
Go. You had an experience where growing up, you did not necessarily, you started to develop a stereotype towards Black people.
Yes. Well, I grew up in a typical white home, and we were lower class. We weren't wealthy. We weren't middle class. So um, I grew up in a mixed neighborhood. So there were a lot of African Americans, and so there were a lot of jokes that were
Jokes.
shared. Jokes,
Okay,
racial
that's fine,
jokes.
Miss McCollum. Thank you.
And as I got older, um, I, I still had friends that were black,
Yeah.
and I had a job where I was where we traveled, and it was me and it was two African American gentlemen. We traveled with them to Lansing, and we would open up. We opened up a restaurant for a company, and we were trainers.
Okay.
And one of those gentlemen, when we got back to Grand Rapids, one of them stole my ATM card.
Mm.
And I got a call from the bank, and I was brought in, and
The bank brought you in?
yeah, they called me up. They said that somebody had been depositing empty envelopes and then turning around and withdrawing the cash.
Oh,
So they brought
okay.
me in and they showed me the picture from the ATM, and it was, you couldn't tell the face, but you could tell by the silhouette of who it was, because the lighting was not very good.
Right.
Um,
And plus, if you're traveling with these guys, you
you
get
work with
familiar
them, you
with
get to
them.
know them.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
not long after that, the other African American gentleman that I had worked with stole my car and sold it for $50 in crack.
Wait, so you get your ATM card confiscated or stolen and your vehicle by
Yeah.
these people that you worked with.
Whom I thought were my friends.
So
I mean,
you
I was
got
driving them to
ganked.
Lansing and back. I mean, we were, we I mean, at the time I wasn't a Christian, so when we
Okay.
drank, we didn't, we did some pot and stuff like that.
So
And
you smoked weed.
yeah, back in the day. Um,
So in all seriousness, so how long did
seriously,
you work with these guys
I worked with them for about a year
before this happened?
before this happened. And what ended up happening next was the bank just gave me the runaround. The bank switched owners, and when they switched owners, the previous owners, the previous company was going to refund me my money and everything was going to be back to normal. They were going to write it off. Then they got sold. And then the new owners went after me for the money.
Okay.
They're like, you owe this money. We can't prove who that person was, and it was your card. You owe us. I closed my account with them, and I became extremely bitter towards African Americans
Right.
in general, them
So
and
how did they
African
get
Americans.
your PIN number?
Because when we were traveling in Lansing together, we went out to eat, and I stopped by an ATM machine. They shoulder surfed, is what they call it. When you're kind of
Oh,
watching over somebody's shoulder. So it was just a matter of him getting his hands on my ATM card, and then he
yeah.
could do whatever he wanted, and he
Yeah.
did. Um,
Wow.
it was at that moment in time that I just accepted every stereotype of African Americans. And I'm wrong. I'm ashamed of this, but that's the truth. That's the truth.
Wow. But I mean, so this was you were younger.
Yes.
You have since traveled a road that has you where you are now because you
Correct.
mentioned you said at the time you weren't a Christian,
Right.
but you're at that point now. So when were you convicted that that stereotype was just that, a stereotype and not factual for all
Okay.
brown and black people?
Okay. It's interesting to me because when I became a Christian, this wasn't something that I dealt with right away.
Yeah.
It was something God showed me over time.
Mm-hmm.
And when I first became a Christian, one of my first prayer partners at my church was a black man. He came up and he prayed with me. He's still at the church today. He's a good man.
Yeah.
He was a deacon and an elder. So he was one of my prayer partners. My small group leader that I got involved with was a Nigerian couple. And so it was like God was showing me,
Yeah.
you know what? not all of what you think of Black people is reality.
Yeah.
But I want to say this was like an instant process. It wasn't. It takes time, and honestly, I'm still learning. And I think that can be said of any white guy who does not understand what an African American goes through, that they're still learning. And cut us a little bit of slack, especially those of us who are trying to learn, because we really are ignorant. And I think these last few years have shown me personally how ignorant I was.
And that's key right there. Like you say, you're trying. And some people, they don't want to try. They're stuck where they are. They don't want to do anything more than, okay, this is the way I feel about people. I don't care what you say. But like you said, God was sending you these people in your life who were blessing you in a way that you didn't even realize you were being blessed. And it just gave you a whole new perspective. And even being on the air with me and Jim or JR, just to be able to have honest and open conversations.
And that's needed.
Right.
That is extremely needed. And I would encourage any person who's white who needs, you got to have a relationship with an African American. I mean, I know there's a lot of white people out there who say they're, for Black Lives Matter and they're against this and they're against that. Even those people don't understand. You actually have to hear the stories, and you have to have a relationship, and not a relationship like, something cordial. You have to have an intimate enough relationship to where you hear the stories, and when you hear their stories, it impacts you.
Yeah.
Pastor JR from Ignite Radio told the story of how one time him and his son rather, and a white girl were going to go hang out at the park.
Mm-hmm.
And he had to tell his son what to do if the police approached him. And that struck me because it's like, I don't have to tell my kid what to do.
Right.
I don't live with the fear of police doing anything to my children, and whether or not this fear is a legit fear or not is irrelevant.
Yeah.
It's irrelevant whether or not police are actually brutal to or racially profile a Black person. The reality is Black people live with the fear of police. And if you're white and they're your friends, you should have empathy and compassion for that. And you should be understanding. And that is something that hit me. And it's like, I don't have to deal with that, but he has to.
Yeah.
And Kishen, you have to. And I'm sure some of the people listening or watching, they have to. And hearing those stories and having that relationship, now it's not just something that I'm hearing. It's something that I am indirectly experiencing because I see the effects that it has on people that I care about. And now I'm offended.
And the Yanceys have jumped on, so thank you so much, as well as my cousin Patsy. So thank you, Patsy, for jumping on. In addition to that, I talked to my kid's dad, and he's had those conversations with men who don't look like him, who are Caucasian, who are white, and they don't have those conversations. They don't think about it. So when he brings it to them about our son, it's like, this is what I have to tell my son. Do you have to say this to your son? He said, and I have daughters. Do you have to share this with your daughters? And the guy was like, well, no, like, duh. And we're like, but it's not duh. And this is a reality. And you don't dismiss it. It is what it is.
Right.
And like you say, have that empathy and try to understand, listen to the stories, because what I experienced, and I was just sharing this with somebody, I'm interviewing some CEOs for a project that I'm working on. And one of the guys shared with me that he remembers he was in high school, I think it was, and they were at a basketball game, and he might have been one of a handful, if that, of Black boys on this basketball team. And they went to this played against this all white school. And I don't remember if they won or lost, but he said as they were leaving, at the end of a game, they'll, shake hands. He said all of them had spit in their hands. And he didn't know what it was until he had gotten through the line. He was like, "Ugh, what is this?" And it's like, you don't understand what it is to have to deal with these types of issues on a consistent basis. I mean,
not on a consistent basis, but I have had spit in my hand before. I played in the league.
You see there, I can't get
but
serious,
but not on a regular basis.
Oh.
I mean, and you make a good point. It's not something that white people have to deal with on a regular basis.
Yeah. But it's all good. And the purpose here for tonight is to test this equipment out and just talk a little bit about where Stories with Kishen has been and where we're going in 2021. And so, hey, Tanya, thanks for jumping on. So where Stories with Kishen has been is, like I said, more than 14 different countries right now. Pretty excited about that. In addition to the 14 different countries or 15 different countries, this year we're really going to get more people who have stories to tell. One of the young ladies, I'm not sure if she's still on, she wrote a book and it's called Breaking the Silence. So she experienced a traumatic event in her childhood that affected her as an adult. And that's the whole premise of telling stories. Hey, Gwen, thanks for jumping on. For sharing stories is that when you tell the story of what happened, healing can begin to happen. Even growing up in my life, everything wasn't great, but I had a really good childhood. But it manifested in my adulthood until I became an adult and realized, hey, this ain't what's all of this chaos that's happening, this pain, this hurt, this trauma. What's all of this about? And so I experienced that. And that's when you started saying, well, Kishen, people need to hear your story. I'm like, I don't want to tell my story. Well, Kishen, yeah, because you've gone through this. Yeah, I've gone through a divorce. I've lost 7 jobs now. That's why my name is Kishen and I am the CEO of me. And I encourage you to become the CEO of you too. I've been on public assistance. If it wasn't for my parents, my kids and I would have been homeless. So these are the stories that people need to hear, and they don't. Or have you ever been driving and you drive past a house and you look at the door and you're like, what's on the other side of that door?
No, I can't say I've honestly done that.
Okay, well, I've done that. And the point I'm trying to make is you don't know what somebody's going through. You don't know what's on the other side of that door. You don't know what trauma they're experiencing. I mean, you hear about people who commit suicide. You hear about just domestic violence, which has increased since COVID has started.
Right, so suicide for that matter.
Exactly. So these are just types of situations that happen. Who knows what else is going to happen? But for those who want to share their story, this is the platform to do it.
And I agree. And if you're trying to appeal to people to come forward and tell their stories, I want to join you in that, because healing is not just when you tell your story. It's not just healing for you. It's healing for other people too, because there are people out there who've gone through what you've gone through, and they need to hear how you cope, because maybe they're not coping. Right. Maybe they're not handling it the right way. Maybe they're on the verge of suicide because they're so tired of dealing with the pain. And then you turn around and you come forward and you say, this is what I went through. My God brought me through it. This is how he brought me through it, and allow them to have that experience through you. Yeah. And then they get healing.
Yeah. That's what it's about. Hey, Miss Florine, I see you. And that's the whole premise.
I don't see any of you guys, by the way.
That's because I'm cheating. But even with that, even with that, what I've learned is when I started telling the story, when I started talking about the divorce, I started talking about the pain, I started talking about, um, public assistance, being on public assistance, and I started talking about the things that I was going through, it not only empowered me, it freed me from some stuff too. Hey, Andrea, sister Andrea. And it freed me from some stuff because I was stuck. It was like I couldn't move any further. Even with, and I say this jokingly, but I'm serious. My name is Kishen and I am the CEO of me. It took me to have my 7th job loss to figure that out. God has given me what I need to get to where I need to go. And people will stay stuck and not move because, well, I don't know how. You know what? You do what you need to do. Don't just sit there and allow life to happen to you. And that's what I learned that I was doing. I'm like, well, I really want to do this. I had a conversation with 2 white guys from high school a few years back, and they were like, hey, Kishen, so what do you want to do? If money was no object, what would you do? I said, well, I would have a talk show. And they told me, do it. I'm like, what do you mean do it? You don't just do it. But then I thought about it. I said, wait a minute. What steps do I need to take to get there? And I started walking in those steps. I started taking the necessary steps. When I reached out to JR, I was like, hey, got some Girl Scout cookies. Can I come on your show? And that was the beginning of where I am now. And that was 10 years ago. So people will be like, oh yeah, Kishen, I see, ooh, this just came out of nowhere. No, this didn't. I've been working at this for 10 years, not to mention the time when I was at WGVU, public media. I was doing pledge drives. I was on the TV doing pledge drives.
I never did get my gift bag, by the way.
And you know what? You need to call 616-331.
You got that number memorized, don't you?
1-800, yeah. But seriously, and they will not even try to pursue their dreams because they don't think they can. That's a lie from the pit of hell. And I'm here to tell you, you absolutely can achieve your dreams. You write the vision, make it plain, start telling people about it, and watch God open doors. That's exactly what happened in 2020 with Stories with Kishen, when I went from a podcast to a digital TV show on the Sean Fair Network on Stage Plus. This didn't just come out of nowhere. This is a goal that I've been working at. Think about in the Bible when God spoke to Abraham and Sarah and told them they were going to have a child. And it didn't happen until 20 some years later or more. And Sarah, old and crusty, older. She's like in her 90s.
And she laughed. She laughed about
it.
Did. And interestingly, she tried to find her own way to fulfill the prophecy.
Exactly.
And I think that when you submit to the Lord, oftentimes you'll find his way of fulfilling the prophecy is better.
Yeah, you're going to stay stuck. You're going to stay stuck right there.
I mean, if you think about global tension, a lot of global tension is based in the Middle East. And that tension started with Abraham and his maid.
Yeah.
Having Ishmael. So, God ain't kidding when he says in the Bible that he's not mocked. You, whatever a person sows, they will reap. And those who sow from the flesh will from the flesh reap corruption. Those who sow from the Spirit will from the Spirit reap eternal life. I try to teach my kids that everything they do is a seed. Yeah. Everything they do, no matter what, it's a seed, good or bad, it's a seed. And that seed, if taken care of properly, will produce fruit. That's a promise in the scripture. What kind of fruit do you want? Do you want bad fruit? Do you want good fruit? If you want good fruit, you plant good seeds.
Yeah. So I can't plant something that's all jacked up and expect for it to come out.
And you always get back, you always get more than what you planted. You plant one seed, you plant one apple seed, you get a tree full of apples.
You get a harvest.
Right. So
Yeah.
you always get back more than what you planted. So if you're going to plant corruption, if you're going to go out to a party tonight and just for fun you're going to try crack, that's a seed.
Yeah.
And let's just face it, that seed doesn't bear good fruit.
You know, I've had the conversation with we call each other God sisters, and we talk about that. And she shared a story about being offered crack when it was first coming out way back. And she said that whatever happened, she didn't do it. But at least one of the people who did, it still has a hold of them 30 some years later. So you're right. When you plant that seed, you try, oh, I'm just going to try this, or just don't do it. You know, who was that? Barbara Bush, Just Say No. Was it
Just
Barbara?
Say No was Nancy Reagan.
Nancy Reagan. I knew it was one of the women, but
one of those old white first ladies.
You know, I did not say that because all but one was white. Anyway, so that's the whole premise of Stories with Kishen, where Stories with Kishen came from.
Hey, furnace.
No, that is just a minute.
I can't hear you now.
Oh well, it is what it is. Background noise. Again, this is just a test.
Well, I mean, it's not like this is an actual TV studio.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's not a TV studio. We are making a studio. Hey, Anjanette, I'm glad you jumped on. So it's not. Again, this whole premise of Stories with Kishen is to tell stories, to hear stories, to share stories, to talk about where you are. And again, if you don't talk about those traumatic events, they're going to manifest in some way as an adult. And you may not even realize what it is until you start taking a deeper dive into that. So, what's up and coming for Stories with Kishen in 2021? Again, my name is Kishen, and I am the CEO of me, and I encourage you to be the CEO of you too. In 2021, I am going to have some pretty amazing people share some stories about some of the experiences that they had. And Shanette and I have talked. She's going to talk a little bit about her story. Ina, who was on earlier, I don't know if she's still on, she's going to share a little bit about her story. There's other people who have either written books or have reached out to me who are going to talk about their stories. Hey, Jean, thanks for jumping on. Trauma events either slowly erode you or sharpen you for later. That is true. So either that trauma is going to eat you up, or you're going to be prepared to share your story so that somebody else does not have to continue to go through those traumatic manifestations of whatever it is. So in 2021, that's just a little bit of what's going to happen. So there will be authors that we will talk to. I say I just incorporated Chad into my plan. So we'll be doing that in addition to authors, just other people in the community and other parts of the country that will be sharing their stories and just talking about what life was like for them. You'd be surprised, even people who are in leadership positions, some of the experiences that they go through, and they don't even share. They don't even talk about it. I think about a couple who, one of the guys, he has a high position at one of the local organizations here, and one of his daughters committed suicide.
That's tough.
You just don't know what somebody is going through. You see this face, you see the what people want you to see. Sometimes it's a facade. Sometimes you can see the brokenness, but rest assured, everybody has a story to tell. So what I'm going to do, hey, Chad, is there anything that you want to share, or maybe I should be sharing, or a question that you have that maybe I haven't thought of asking?
Not that I can think of. No.
Okay. Um, then if that's the case, we're just going to wrap up. I just wanted to jump on real quick to see how this StreamYard worked. I'm trying
And it
to
looks
just
like it worked pretty
incorporate.
good.
I think so. Just trying to incorporate some things and test the waters for what's coming, because 2021 is going to be amazing. People are going to buy t-shirts that says, "And I am the CEO of me." And I've already started a Facebook page about that, because again, some people just need to know you don't have to stay stuck in those situations, and you don't have to believe the lies that people are saying. And I agree, some people are embarrassed, and they don't want to talk about it. They've come forth and they've shared their stories, and they've been shunned. They've been, just it's hard when you share stuff with people. You're trying to confide in them so that you can get beyond being stuck, and people don't support you. That's
It would
hard.
seem to me like those are the kinds of relationships that maybe you need to consider cutting out.
Right. But if you're young and you don't know that, what do?
You watch
And
Stories with Kishen and find out.
you watch Stories with Kishen and find out. I like that. All right. Yeah, you get that one. One for Chad. One for Chad. So with that being the case, yes, you are, Anjanette. You are the CEO of you. And just start speaking that. And that's with anybody. You say your name. My name is Kishen, and I am the CEO of me. So speak those things. And believe it or not, there's going to be t-shirts with that. And people are going to start wearing that. And they're going to own who they are. Own it, because you cannot expect for anybody to run your life. You cannot expect for anybody to point you in every direction. Sometimes it's called faith. You just got to walk in faith and know that God is there. If you keep running up against walls, sometimes you got to break the wall down, and sometimes you're like, okay, fine, I'm going to go this way. Like going through a maze. Remember those mirrors, those glass mirrors at the amusement parks?
And you think you're
going one way? That's what it is.
They have a really awesome one at Mackinac Island.
Gene, you're not the boss of you. You're the CEO of you. That's right, Gene. You are the CEO of you. You special. But yeah, so why continue to go through these mirrors, these smoke and mirrors, these glass mirrors, thinking, you go one way or the other, and maybe that's what you need to do to get on the other side of it. But sometimes it may just be a test of your faith. So I'll wrap up and I'll leave it there. I am going to be doing these more frequently. I think they're kind of cool because it's engaging. People are responding, so we're able to share some things or even speak some things, and hopefully just encourage somebody that even if you are, and it doesn't matter your age. What Colonel Sanders, when he when he got the recipe for Kentucky Fried Chicken, he was in his 60s. So don't ever think it's too old to pursue your dreams. Don't. Trust me. I'm not going to tell my age, but put it like this. I am not going to. You are a lie. You are not. I'm not 55. But regardless, hey, Tammy, thanks for jumping on. Regardless, we are going to wrap up this live stream with StreamYard. And again, I am going to make it a point. I'm going to have a set date where I'm going to come on and just talk to people, share, and, get input. Hopefully this blesses somebody. Hopefully this encourages somebody to move beyond being stuck, move beyond whatever's holding them back. And it may not even be anything that we've talked about. It could be an abusive relationship that you're currently in, and you don't have to stay there, but maybe it's because that's what you saw growing up and that's all you know. But there's more to it. I think everybody deserves to be happy. I think everybody deserves to live prosperously, but there's a way to get there where you have peace about it. And that's the key. I encourage you to get peace. So, Chad, do you have anything that you want to say before we shut it down?
I do not, except thank you for having me on. It's a privilege and an honor to enjoy these last 39 minutes and 48 seconds with you. And yeah, I think great things are coming.
Yeah, I think great things are coming. And even people who are watching, great things are coming for you. You know how if you're connected to something and then you reach that positive, Tammy, it'll be replayed. You connect with somebody who's positive, and then you become encouraged because they spoke a word. Thanks, Jean. And they just said something that encouraged you. That's what this is about. It's about sharing. It's about spreading the word. It's about just letting somebody know it's okay to be positive. And not only is it okay, it's good to be positive and to surround yourself by positive people. Because if you're constantly surrounded by negative people, your life is there's going to be some negativity there.
Emily Dixon has a good quote. Those who sleep with dogs will rise with fleas.
Dang it.
And basically, whatever you're around, whatever you hang around, whatever, that's going to become you.
Yeah,
You're
I agree with
catch
that.
it.
Yeah. And sometimes you have to, even with family members, sometimes you have to shut it down for a season until something changes. So I'll leave at that point. So thank you for everybody who was able to tune in to the live stream. Again, this is going to happen more frequently. We're going to have these just connections. And I just believe 2021, somebody's going to be blessed and they're going to move beyond being stuck. They're going to move into a new place and they're going to be just thrilled about where God has taken them and where their life is going to start transitioning into a positive direction. So again, thanks for joining us and stay tuned. It may be another Tuesday and it may be unannounced, but Tuesday is the night I'm going to try to stick to. So again, thanks everybody for tuning in. God bless. Say bye, Chad.
Bye, Chad.
I knew it. Bye.